The baton came from nowhere. 1 second, Dorian Vale was walking home. The next, pain exploded in his arm. He staggered. Not from the impact. From the shock. 12 hours of chaos in the ER hadn't prepared him for this. He clutched his shoulder, breath catching. The street had been quiet a moment ago. Now it wasn't. Now voices were rising. Phones were out. Faces were turning. The officer stood frozen. Mid-30s. Buzzed hair. Pale eyes wide. The baton still dangled in his hand. Dorian stared at him, heart thudding in his ears. "I was just walking," he said. No one moved. Not yet. The officer's mouth opened, then closed. Behind him, another figure stepped forward. Older. Built like a wall. Stern face, jaw locked. Sergeant stripes gleaming under the streetlight. "Back up," the older one barked. Everyone back up, but they didn't. The crowd tightened. Because they saw it too. Dorian wasn't part of the scene. He hadn't intervened. He hadn't said a word. He was just walking home. And now he was bleeding. 5 minutes earlier, it had been just another night. The fluorescent lights in the hospital's break room buzzed as Dorian pulled his backpack over one aching shoulder. The floor beneath him felt like a memory foam mattress from standing too long. His bones didn't hurt, but they felt hollow. Used up. Another 12-hour shift. Another marathon of emergency calls, urgent care, and quiet heartbreak. The rhythm of trauma had become routine, but not easier. He had said goodbye to a teenager's mother tonight, then held the hand of a man whose wife never woke up. There were no breaks in between, so when he left the ER entrance and stepped into the damp spring night, it felt like surfacing from deep water. Riverton streets were mostly calm. Late buses hissed by. A few night owls passed with earbuds in. He walked. He always did. 10 blocks from the hospital to his apartment. Down Vine Street. Past the 24/7 store. Familiar route. Familiar rhythm. Until he saw the two cops. They stood stiff under the glow of a flickering street lamp. One young, one older. Across from them stood a man. Dark hoodie. Hands raised. Calm voice. "I'm just getting a soda, man." That's it. The younger cop's baton was already out. That should have been the first warning. Dorian slowed his pace. He didn't want to get involved. Not tonight. But he couldn't help watching. The tension in their posture was off. Too tight. Too poised. And then, the older cop barked something Dorian didn't catch. The hoodie guy backed away. The baton twitched in the young cop's hand. And just as Dorian decided to keep moving, the young cop turned too fast. His baton whipped sideways and slammed straight into Dorian's upper arm. The pain was instant. The world tilted. He staggered back, hand flying to the point of impact. It felt like fire. He bit back a groan, fingers flexing to make sure the limb still worked. "Hey!" someone in the crowd shouted. Phones lifted. And just like that, the story changed. The young officer blinked. His baton dipped. The realization hit him visibly. Dorian wasn't involved. He hadn't even stopped. He was just there, now hurt. Dorian's voice came out low. Measured. "Why'd you hit me?" The cop said nothing. The silence stretched. Then, from the crowd, "We saw that. Someone else. He wasn't even near you." The older cop moved fast. Everyone needs to clear out. But no one listened. No one moved. Not anymore. A woman in a red jacket stepped forward, phone recording. "You assaulted him," she said. "You know that, right?" The officer opened his mouth again. Still nothing came out. Dorian stayed still. He didn't yell. Didn't scream. He just stared at the man who'd hit him. Not angry. Just waiting. "You thought I was a threat?" he asked softly. The officer's jaw clenched. His lips parted. Then, "I thought you were reaching," he muttered. Dorian blinked. "Reaching?" "I was scratching my arm." The officer's face twisted. Recognition. Embarrassment. The crowd murmured. Heat built in the air. But something else was shifting too. A car pulled up to the curb. A woman stepped out. Mid-40s. Confident. Notepad already in hand. Behind her came another figure. Older. Sharp suit. Silver beard. The woman lifted her badge. Lena Price. Riverton Herald. The man beside her nodded at the crowd. This going on record? No one needed to answer. The phones were still up. The tension snapped tight. Sergeant Kellum's eyes narrowed. "This is a simple mistake." "No," Dorian said. "It's not." He stepped forward, his voice steady, controlled. "You didn't hesitate," he told Rusk. "You didn't ask a question. You just acted." Rusk finally looked at him, Really looked. Dorian didn't flinch. I worked 12 hours saving people you wouldn't even talk to, Dorian said. And you hit me because I looked like someone else. The silence after that was deep. The city hummed in the background. But no one at that corner moved. Lena wrote something quickly. Halden, the editor, watched everything, like a man calculating headlines. Kellum tried again. Sir, this isn't the place. It is now, someone shouted. The crowd agreed. Dorian saw something flicker in Rusk's eyes. Fear, not of the crowd, or even the consequences, but of himself. What if I had been someone else? Dorian asked. It wasn't a question. It was a mirror, and Rusk saw it. Then something unexpected happened. Rusk spoke. I was wrong, he said. I'll report it. Kellum's head snapped toward him. You don't have to. I do. His voice shook slightly, but he didn't back down. Dorian raised an eyebrow. You reporting it because you believe it? He asked. Or because we caught it on camera? Rusk didn't answer. Didn't need to. The crowd already knew. Lena looked up. Can I quote you on that? Rusk hesitated, then nodded. I'll report myself. Kellum looked like he might explode, but he didn't speak. The story was slipping out of his hands. Dorian took a breath. His arms still throbbed. His legs felt heavy, but his voice remained sharp. You can't fix this tonight, he said, but you can stop pretending it didn't happen. He turned to the crowd. Keep your footage. Don't let it disappear. Murmurs of agreement rippled outward. Someone clapped. Not in celebration. In solidarity. Kellum growled under his breath. You've made your point. No, Dorian said. Not yet. He turned back to Rusk. This isn't over. You know that, right? Rusk nodded, but his eyes said he didn't understand just how far this would go. Then something shifted. A voice from the edge of the crowd. You think he'll really report himself? A man asked. He will, Dorian said, but even he wasn't sure. Not completely, because too often these stories ended in silence, in reports buried, in edits made behind closed doors, in statements rewritten. Dorian started walking. Not home. Not yet. To the edge of the sidewalk, where a cruiser's dashcam light blinked faintly. He pointed at it. Make sure that doesn't disappear. The woman in red was already on it, filming the car, documenting everything. Got it, she said. But just as Dorian started to turn, a radio crackled, then another. Kellum grabbed his mic. The transmission was garbled, but the words were clear enough. Officer down. Vine and Lex multiple units respond. Dorian froze. Lex Street, 3 blocks away, the direction he'd been walking. Kellum stiffened. He turned to Rusk. Get in the car. What happened? Someone asked. But Kellum wasn't answering questions anymore. He was moving. Fast. So was Rusk. The cruiser door slammed. And just like that, they were gone. Dorian stood in the wake of the lights. The crowd began to stir, murmurs buzzing like hornets. What was that? Did they just leave? Another incident? Lena was already calling her newsroom. Halden stepped forward. You okay? He asked. Dorian nodded. Barely. His shoulder ached. His mind whirled. But something deeper settled in his gut. That transmission. That urgency. Something was happening nearby. And somehow he knew. This night wasn't done with him. Not yet. He turned to head home. But 2 blocks later, the sky flashed blue again. Sirens howled in the distance. Then a scream. Hi. Sharp. Too close. He ran. Not because he wanted to. Because instinct pulled him. The same instinct that kept him upright in trauma rooms. The same instinct that moved his hands before his brain could catch up. The sidewalk curved. The alley opened. And what he saw stopped him cold. 2 cops. Not Rusk. Not Kellum. Another pair. Pinned against a brick wall. By a man with a pipe. Blood on the pavement. A teenager crumpled near a trash bin. Not moving. Dorian's breath caught. His shift wasn't over. His night wasn't done. And whatever had just begun was far, far worse than what came before. The silence after the strike hung in the air like smoke. Dorian's breath caught in his throat. His knees locked. Time didn't slow, it stopped. The baton. The weight of it still echoed in his bones. And the worst part, nobody moved. No officer lunged forward to apologize. No bystander stepped in to help. They just stared. Phones up. Eyes wide. The man in uniform, Patrolman Rusk, stood frozen, mouth slightly open. His fingers still wrapped around the baton, like he hadn't yet registered what he'd done. Dorian's voice cut through the thick air. I'm not a threat. The words were low, steady, but they cracked something open. Gasps. A man cursing under his breath. A woman near the curb swearing she got the whole thing on video. Sergeant Kellum stepped forward. Step back, sir. Dorian's eyes didn't move. I was already back. Kellum's hand hovered near his holster. A reflex? A warning? He didn't care. Dorian's arm throbbed. The pain was growing now, nerves screaming under his sleeve. But pain was background noise. What mattered was control, staying sharp, and letting the silence speak louder than anything. You hit me, Dorian said again. This time Rusk reacted. A twitch of the jaw. His knuckles whitened around the baton, then slowly loosened. I didn't mean, he started. But Kellum barked over him. Don't say another word. Too late. Another flash went off from the crowd. Then another. Kellum growled. Put the phones away. All of you. No one did. Dorian stepped forward, not aggressive. Just deliberate. And that's when the SUV pulled up. Black. Tinted windows. Quiet tires. Out stepped a man in a navy suit with a silver press badge glinting at his belt. Mr. Halden, editor-in-chief of the Riverton Ledger. Behind him, a woman with a mic, phone in hand, recording everything. Dorian felt his stomach knot. This was no longer just a bad night. This was a story. Halden nodded once. This you're doing? He asked the crowd. Someone answered. Caught it all. The woman, reporter Jessa Marin, stepped past Halden facing Dorian. What's your name? He didn't answer. She didn't push. Halden turned to Kellum. Problem here, Sergeant? Kellum's face tightened. Everything's under control. Dorian spoke again. He hit me. I was walking home. Marin's eyebrows lifted slightly. Her voice was careful. Did you do anything that might have? No, Dorian interrupted. Just scratched my arm. Rusk's head lowered slightly. Shame blooming behind his eyes. Halden crossed his arms. That what happened, officer? Rusk nodded slow. I thought he was reaching for something. That's not a threat, someone in the crowd muttered. That's AF *******ing. Dorian looked around. This wasn't going away. Kellum's radio buzzed, but he ignored it. His focus was laser tight on Dorian now. Sir, I'm asking you, again, to step back. Dorian took a step forward. Rusk flinched. You knew it was wrong, Dorian said low. You felt it before it landed. The baton was gone from Rusk's hands now. Holstered. Forgotten. His hands were empty. Shaking. I was tired, Dorian said. Coming off a double shift. You didn't ask. You didn't check. You just swung. The crowd stirred. And that's when the twist came. A man in the crowd shouted, That ain't the first time he's done this. All eyes turned. Dorian's breath caught. The voice belonged to a boy, maybe 19. Hoodie, scuffed sneakers. Rage in his eyes. 2 months ago, same block. My cousin. He ain't even resistin'. Officer Rusk clocked him in the mouth. No camera, though. No crowd. Rusk froze. Say his name, the boy demanded. Kellum barked. That's enough. No, it's not, Dorian cut in. Who was it? The kid's chin lifted. Andre Dales. The name dropped like a stone. Jessa Marin's head turned to Halden. He nodded. She typed something fast into her phone. Halden stepped forward. We ran a short piece on Andre. Said he tripped during an arrest. Missing teeth. No body cam footage submitted. Rusk's lips parted, then closed again. Kellum was red now. His voice cracked through the air like ice. This is over. No, said Dorian. This is what over looks like. But only if we stop. Rusk finally spoke. I'll report myself. Kellum spun toward him. You'll do no such thing. I made a mistake. Dorian stared hard at him. You got caught. Silence. Then a woman's voice broke through. They'll bury it, you know. Make it disappear. The crowd stirred again. Someone whispered. They always do. But this time something was different. Jessa Marin raised her phone again. He said he'll report himself. You all heard that. Rusk swallowed. His voice was dry. I will. Why now? Dorian asked. Rusk didn't answer. Kellum stepped forward. That's enough. I'll take it from here. But the crowd wasn't listening to him anymore. They were looking at Dorian. And that's when the final piece slipped into place. Jessa Marin's phone pinged. She froze. Her eyes widened. Halden looked over her shoulder. His jaw tensed. What is it? Dorian asked. She turned her screen to him. A leaked email. From Riverton PD Internal Affairs. Time-stamped. 4 days ago. Officer Rusk. Multiple use of force complaints pending. Internal investigation on hold due to lack of video evidence. Subject flagged for review, pattern of misidentification incidents. Dorian's pulse thudded. They knew, Halden said quietly. They knew, and they did nothing. Kellum's face changed. Not denial. Not even anger. Fear. I didn't know, Rusk whispered. Halden's eyes narrowed. They didn't tell you? Rusk looked at Kellum. Did you know? No answer. You put me back on duty, Rusk said, louder now. You knew I wasn't supposed to be out here. Kellum's voice was stone. We needed manpower. Dorian stepped back. The pieces were all there now. He wasn't just a random mistake. He was a symptom. The problem was bigger, deeper, rotten at the root. The crowd began murmuring louder. People filming again. Not just the officers now, but the whole story. The system. And Dorian realized something chilling. They didn't just fail him. They set this up. He turned to Marin. Run it. She nodded. Kellum moved to grab her phone. Halden stepped between them. Touch her, and you're done. Sirens howled in the distance. Back up. Dorian's heart pounded. You gonna stop this too, Sergeant? Kellum's voice cracked. You don't understand what you're doing. Dorian took a step forward. You're right. I didn't. Another step. But I do now. Sirens grew louder. The crowd began to split, uncertain. And then someone yelled, Hey, where's the officer? They turned. Rusk was gone. Vanished into the alley behind the station store. Kellum's face drained of color. Halden said it first. He ran. Dorian didn't breathe. He just looked down that alley, into the dark, where Rusk had disappeared, and said, He knows what's coming. The sirens screamed. The crowd turned, and the night cracked wide open. The weight of the letter in his hands felt heavier than anything Dorian Vale had carried in 12 years of nursing. He read it again. Then again. The city inspector's office. An anonymous report. Routine review of officer conduct. But inside the envelope, 3 grainy surveillance stills. One showed Dorian stepping backward, moments before the baton struck. Another showed Patrolman Rusk, shoulders tense, eyes aimed past Dorian, swinging. But it was the last image that cut deepest. Sergeant Kellum, watching. No action, no reaction, just watching. Not shock, not confusion, just patience. Dorian dropped the letter onto his coffee table, the edges trembling. That wasn't the face of someone witnessing a mistake. That was the face of someone expecting it. The moment twisted in his memory like a rusted screw. He stood, paced, tried to shake the chill out of his bones. Kellum had wanted it buried. That much was clear. But the footage, someone had preserved it. Someone inside. He grabbed his phone. Dialed. The reporter, Nia Redden, picked up on the first ring. You need to see something, he said. Nia was at his door within the hour, editor Halden trailing behind. Dorian had never seen Halden out of a suit, but tonight he wore rolled-up sleeves and dark sneakers. Ready for war. Nia spread the photos across the table, jaw tight. Halden didn't speak, just stared. Where'd you get these? She asked. Dorian tapped the envelope. No return. No name. Postmarked 2 blocks from RPD's district headquarters. Nia glanced at Halden. He nodded once. This changes everything. Dorian knew she was right. This wasn't just excessive force anymore. This wasn't just accountability. This was something coordinated. Halden's voice was calm but cold. We publish tomorrow. Front page. Nia hesitated. If we do this, Kellum will retaliate. Quietly, but hard. Dorian leaned forward. He's already retaliating. He told them what happened the day after the baton strike. The silent officers parked outside his building. The unsigned notes left in his mailbox. Not threats. Worse. Warnings. Careful who you embarrass. Some mistakes don't get fixed. Nia's hand hovered over her recorder, knuckles white. They're rattling cages, Halden muttered. Trying to shake this loose before it roots. They're too late, Dorian said. But even as the words left his mouth, something tugged at him. If Kellum had watched and waited for Rusk to swing, if he had allowed it, what else had he allowed? And for how long? The story hit Riverton before sunrise. The article opened with the image, Kellum's indifferent face, frozen in time. Then the headline, The Watcher, a veteran officer's silent permission. By noon, half the city had read it. By 1, the precinct released a statement. Context missing. Events under internal review. By 2, Dorian's phone rang again. Unknown number. He almost didn't pick up. But then, I'm the one who sent the photos, the voice said. Female. Low. Steady. Dorian froze. Who is this? Doesn't matter. What matters is what's next. A pause. There's more. Kellum's buried things before. I can show you, but you'll need to come alone. A pit opened in his gut. Where? She gave him an address. An old maintenance building off 12th and Renner. Midnight. Don't be late. The line clicked. Rain fell hard that night, slicing through the streetlights like broken glass. Dorian stood at the rusted gate, shoulders soaked, eyes on the flickering warehouse sign. City storage, and no trespassing. He thought about turning back. Then he thought about the baton, the photo, the crowd, the silence afterward. He pushed the gate open. Inside, the warehouse groaned. Water leaked through holes in the roof. A dim bulb buzzed from a makeshift office in the back. She was there, mid-30s, sharp eyes under a hood. No badge, no name, just truth. I worked the back rooms, she said. Evidence archiving, complaints, body cams. I used to believe in the system. What changed? He asked. She looked at him, rainwater dripping from her hood. Kellum. She pulled out a flash drive. There are at least 6 incidents. Excessive force. Disappearances. A kid died. They said overdose, but I saw the autopsy photos. Bruises. Baton-shaped. Dorian's throat dried. All covered. Redacted reports. Missing footage. Same officer name on each. Kellum? She nodded. But never on paper. Always nearby. Always watching. She pressed the flash drive into his hand. They won't let this go public. Not without a fight. You need to be ready. Dorian tucked the drive into his jacket. Why me? Because you're the first one they couldn't silence. Back home, Dorian plugged the drive in. The files were real. Reports. Photos. Body cam cuts. Always partial. Always edited. But enough. He called Nia. Get Halden, he said. We're not just publishing again. We're exposing the whole damn wall. The next morning, Riverton Police issued an urgent press conference. The mayor stood at the podium. RPD's commissioner at her side. Kellum was absent. When pressed, the commissioner said, Sergeant Kellum is on administrative leave, pending full investigation. The word leave felt like a bandage over a bullet wound. That night, the crowd returned to Vine Street. This time not because of violence, because of truth. Dorian stood at the same spot where it happened, where the baton fell. The cameras were back. So were the phones. So was Patrolman Rusk. But not in uniform. He came alone. Jacket zipped up. Hat low. Dorian saw him before the crowd did. He didn't flinch. You really reported yourself? Dorian asked. Rusk nodded. I meant it. Dorian didn't smile. Didn't forgive. But he nodded back. You still have to testify. I will. Rusk looked away, then back. I'm sorry. Dorian turned to the crowd. Don't thank me for standing up, he said. Ask why we have to. Cheers didn't come. Just silence. Not empty silence. Loaded. A week later, the city council announced independent oversight. 2 days after that, Kellum resigned. No public statement. No press. Just gone. But Dorian knew better. These stories didn't end with one man. One baton. One video. The system wasn't broken. It was functioning, just not for people like him. And maybe now they'd see that. He didn't go back to work right away. His arm still ached. But not from the bruise. From the weight of everything since. He stood by his window that night. Rain on the glass. Riverton humming below. He opened his laptop. Began typing. Not a complaint. Not a report. An open letter. To the city. To the bystanders. To the system. To anyone who thought silence meant safety. His final line was simple. And impossible to ignore. The next time someone says, "It's not my place," ask them what happens when it finally is. He hit send. The screen glowed. And somewhere across the city, someone read his words and didn't look away. The story wasn't over. But for the first time, the silence was